I think we'll start, not to lose any time. Welcome once again. When you're not speaking, keep your microphone off, but you're most welcome to unmute yourself if you want to contribute something. I don't know if you all have bad bandwidth, but it's nice to see each other. If you're able to switch on your cameras, it makes it a little bit more personal. And that's part of collaborating. It's more difficult to collaborate if you don't know who you're talking to. If you want to have a multi-stakeholder partnership also, you need to build a relationship together, and then it's always better if you meet in person, of course, but online that at least we can see each other on the video. Thanks. Shadow was, I think, turning on, but others are not. Maybe your bandwidth is not sufficient. That's okay. So who will be the reporter of this group? It's not a very big task. Don't be shy.
We can discuss it at the end part, maybe. Like we will first.
Yeah, we can discuss at the end. That is also fine. But just keep it in mind. Somebody needs to report.
Yeah. That will do. We have to do the first part or the second part. The stakeholder analysis we have to do.
Yeah, we are doing group 1.
Okay.
Yes. So let me introduce again by. Let me see, there is somebody that is for Isha, admit to the main session. Somebody is coming to the waiting room. Shall I admit? Yeah, he's probably in the main session now. Maybe you can see if you can get him into a
group. Yeah, I just saw the person. Just 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. And I'll share my screen in the meantime. Okay. So, actually, Isha, would you be, if you're there, or are you, did you just leave? Yeah, you're there. Okay. Could you actually start that video? I just thought, let's start with a short video. It's only 2 minutes, and then we come back to the slides.
Yes, just give me a second, sharing screens. Yeah. It's this one, right? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Isha, that's the correct video. I can see screen.
The path of a multi-stakeholder partnership begins with an initiation phase. A core group of stakeholders is formed to drive the partnership forward. It creates space for dialogue and brings other relevant stakeholders on board to strengthen the partnership. It is important that the stakeholders work on equal footing and build up mutual trust. Successful collaboration requires both a shared definition of the challenge at hand as well as a shared objective. However, the stakeholders themselves often have differing views, interests, and priorities. For this reason, exchange and joint analysis of the challenge are necessary. It is important to understand the context of the challenge as well as the different perspectives of the stakeholders, and to establish a common language. For more information on multi-stakeholder partnerships, visit our website or get in touch with us. We're happy to help.
Okay, so that was a very brief introduction. And again, it's a resource, that website, the Partnerships 2030 is a very interesting website also for some basic or some background information. So I invite you to go there as a reference after the session if you want to look it up. Now, Misha, again, she spoke about the principles of integrated water resources management. And if we want to strengthen the participatory governance and management, and if it has been decided, yes, indeed, we want to work in a multi-stakeholder setting, then the first question is, of course, which user groups or which stakeholders should we involve? And that the answer is depending on the problem that you want to tackle. Of course, the level of operation that you are working at, if you're working at the policy level or if you're working at a local problem, also the area where you are operating, and again, the local situation there, depending on which actors are available. So let's go back to the case that was introduced in the plenary session. If you have to answer the question, who to involve, maybe on the chat, I would like to invite you to write a couple of stakeholder groups. Don't press the enter button yet. We will create, this is an interactive tool again. I would like to engage you all in a fun activity. We will create a chatterfall instead of a waterfall, okay? So please all, if you could write in the chat, but not press enter. 1 or 2 or 3 or as many as you can think of stakeholders as a group, type of stakeholders that you would like to involve in rejuvenating the village ponds program. Just think of any watershed that you know of, sub-basin or river basin, keep that in mind and write in the chat. Don't press enter, just write in the chat which group of stakeholders you think should be involved. And I have given you, we're going fast now, so I hope that everyone has typed something, and I will count back from 3, 2 to 1, and please now press enter. All of you, the same time? Yes, we've created a little chatterfall here, very nice. Let us look, locals, residents, I suppose, village planners, authorities in power, and authorities in power. Abhimanyu, can you say, what do you mean if you have an authority in power in mind?
These are basically panchayats, so if there are encroachments, those people can force people who are creating encroachments to remove them.
Yes,
so
okay, so panchayats, for those who are not Indian, are the local councils, you can say at village level, right? The local decision makers, the elected representatives, the elders, the village elders, you can compare them with, right? So the panchayats are at village level, yes. Farmers. Water supply and sanitation, but who will be the actor? If I see water supply and sanitation, I would need to know who is supplying the water and who is doing the sanitation. Oh, the department, sorry, I couldn't read that. The departments, yeah, the government departments. Yeah, sorry, Shivani, that's, I now understand. You mean the government departments of water supply and sanitation, and farmers and authorities. Yes, you could also think even of the residents themselves, of course, the community, citizens or groups of citizens, women self-help groups, NGOs, yes, indeed. Industrialists, if there is a factory that is basically causing some pollution, you could actually try to involve them as well. They may also want to look for solutions for their issues, their environmental issues. CSR, that is corporate social responsibility. If there are larger companies that actually want to do some social projects and they have funds for that, especially if they source, say, agricultural produce from that region around the village, then you could approach those companies indeed. Maybe a politician, researchers, if you need knowledge. So we have a large group of different type of stakeholders here. Now, I would invite you, and I need to actually get out from here just need to get a link. I'll share a link in the chat to Google Documents. And let me post it in the chat to everyone. please go to this link. And we have a Google document there where we can actually, and everyone is invited, where we can actually put in those groups. If you can cluster and group them, just right now, just write whatever we have just come up with in the chat. Just cluster them in your slides. I see 2 people appearing on the Google slide. I can also share the screen. Does everybody have access to Google Slides?
Hello, we don't have the access to edit it, actually.
Okay. Let's see.
We only have the access to
You
view
have
it.
access only to view it, right?
Change.
Yes. You need to be able to edit it.
Yeah, thanks.
Done. So actually, this is the slide. Can you see my screen? The slide on identifying stakeholders from different perspectives. I see 2 people in this slide. Does everybody, can you click on the link in the chat? Yeah, 3 people are appearing. Now you can make it even more concrete. Write down the type of NGO that you would like to involve, or the type of community groups. Very good. I see someone typing. I hope that more people are. Just enter some suggestions you made in the chat. We've already come up with so many good ideas. Research, yes.
Everyone cannot type.
Everyone cannot type?
Yeah. I think partial access has been given. Just recheck once.
Okay. Still not able to edit.
Actually, you have to refresh it again. It will when you will reload it, it will get you.
So if you click on the refresh button, reload the same slide, and you can do it. Sorry, yeah, I think the settings are correct at my end. Try to refresh.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, I have 3 people. I think we are more in the group, more than 3. Is there someone who has no access to the Google documents? Fantastic. Private business, I see someone typing now on industries.
Ma'am, I'm still not able to edit the file.
Can you close your window?
I tried doing that.
Yes. Okay. I'll try to go to the settings once again. Share. Anyone with the internet, I'll copy the link again and I'll put it again in the chat box.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's probably, I don't know if this is a different link, just use it. If you can try this link. I'm sorry for the technical hiccup. If I put this link, I have given 2 links now. Try either one of them. Yeah, I have 4 people in the group. Very nice. And the slide is getting filled up. Wonderful. Someone is typing now on the government. The panchayats are the village authorities, the public health departments, state and central governments. Right. Can you be specific on which state and central governments you would want to? From the state government, is there a specific department? Pollution control boards. Very nice. Yeah. groundwater department of boards. Yeah. And then I see someone typing the NGO, civil society, farmers, local citizens, RWA, resident welfare associations. Yeah, very important to have the residents also on board. Self-help groups, people with a historic knowledge of ponds. That is very interesting, yeah. And why is that? Who typed that? People with historic knowledge of the ponds. Can you explain?
Pond rejuvenation is a very ancient science as far as India is concerned. There's a book specifically on it by Dr. Anupam Misra. It's called Aaj Bhi Sukhe Hai Talab, where he explains how water rejuvenation, pond rejuvenation, and dams is done on a local level. So people with historic knowledge who know about creating it would essentially become the implementing partners in this case.
Yeah, yeah, and also see people who live in the area, local knowledge, historic knowledge on where the ponds used to be. That says actually, because you can already see where it naturally collects the water. But the old traditional ponds were also there on those places where they were most beneficial. So even that historic knowledge is very useful.
Right.
Yeah. Nice, indigenous knowledge sources. Then on the private side, we have industrialists. Industrialists, are those the local plants, the local factories in the area that are affecting the water, or is it another category of industrialists?
It is the local factories who are affecting the water, plus those who have their workers and laborers living in those villages. So they would want to ensure that their health is maintained, and hence they are the partners.
That is two. That's very interesting. One, the plant itself, the local plants, the industrial plant that is discharging water or using water in the basin in that area locally, and the other one is the employees that you want to involve them, right? And also for their staff do something. Yeah, nice, interesting. Startups because of innovations that you want to use in the ponds. Yes.
Yes.
If you want to have a nature-based solutions, maybe there can also be a resource recovery. You can maybe even have a business model on recovery resources from water.
Right.
Yeah, nice, great. I think we're getting a very nice. Does anyone want to explain why one of the stakeholders should be involved? Is there any specific actor that you have put in that you would like to highlight? JAL boards, for those who are not Indian, JAL means water. So these are the water boards in the city. So basically these are the organizations locally. Yeah. Department of Health, we already had the public health departments. So that is double. Good. So while you can still type, you could also now go to the next question that I have for you is, what could these stakeholders bring to the table? You know, these stakeholders sometimes have conflicting interests, sometimes they have aligned interests, but they also have resources, right? So if you think of it from a resources perspective, you will probably need some funds, but you may also need in-kind contributions and other resources. If you look at the next slide here, and I'm just going to, I hope that you can see. You are still in the same file, so you can go to the next slide. There you can just see an overview of the same categories. In the last two categories, I had actually renamed it into research. But if you look at the resources that the stakeholders bring in, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but what can an NGO bring in the partnership? See point 2, the access to local knowledge, the knowledge of the communities. That is a very important one, for example. On businesses with the ponds, if we want to clean those ponds, we may need machinery or equipment to even dredge them or, remove the solid waste or the weeds or whatever is required. For that, you need machinery and some of these businesses and plants the local factories may have. So instead of giving funds, they could even also give those machineries for the purpose of cleaning your ponds, right? So this is also a way of working, collaborating. Of course, the government, the land, if it is on private lands, you need the private land ownership to be on board. But if it's on common and government land, of course, you need to have the government on board because you can't work on their land without their permission. Then, of course, the international agencies are listed here, and I think that impartiality or legitimacy is a good argument. Research, academia, the technical support, and the knowledge and experience that you need. Of course, the donor organizations, that speaks for itself, the funding. So is this clear? Any questions? I think you did a great job. Thank you all for entering so much information. I would now like to introduce that matrix, the stakeholder matrix, and I think we have another 10 minutes left, so we have to do it again a bit quick. I will share another link to another document, and I think I saved it here. Step 2. I hope you can use this link. I'll put it in the chat box. Where is the chat box? Let me just stop sharing for a moment. Yeah, that matrix that I showed in the plenary session. If you click on this link, hopefully you can access it. Let me know if you can not access. I think, Isha, there is somebody unassigned to a room who, yeah, okay, now, fine. Okay, so we are back in that Google. I see 3 people, maybe one is still trying to log into the second step of the assignments. If you can just go to the Google slides, the last link that I put in the chat. Oh, we lost someone. I think I have 3 people here now. So this is the matrix of influence and interest. Now we've made these boxes, these categories for the government, civil society, private sector, research. On the right side, you can see some of the bubbles. You had actually come up with many more. My question is, if we would have to place these bubbles basically in the quadrants for low interest, high interest, how do you rank them? Where would you put them? Low influence, high influence on the decision making. How would you place them in the quadrants? You can pick up one of these bubbles on the right.
You have to allow access to for editing.
Again, you don't have the access here.
Yeah.
So sorry. This is. Oh yeah, I see. Done. Now you have to refresh your screen maybe. Do you all see it? Can you now access it? If you would click on one of the bubbles, can you move it? Or you can type it? Yeah, very good. You can modify the text and you can move them into that matrix where you think it fits. And it's great that we can all do it together. We can basically work and you can pick up a bubble, you can make a new bubble, you can actually write down a couple of the ones that you had identified in the previous exercise. The factory owner is there that we talked about. You can modify the names of the stakeholders if you want to. So how are we ranking them now on influence? Just a question. Can somebody say what would be criteria? How do you determine influence?
Like how much power they have for influencing the decision making. Like from the government point of view, they have high influence but low interest. So that can be the.
How much power in decision making they have? Yeah, some of these are government departments. They have high power of decision making, I guess, right?
Local politicians might have low interest. Yeah, that I
Low
would.
interest. You think
Yeah,
local politician may have a low interest, but they have high powers, right?
yeah. So
So they
it
have
would
high
be, it would
influence.
come in the second part, I guess.
Yeah. So some of the local politicians have, maybe most of them have a low interest. But
Yeah,
there
yeah,
may
that's
be
what.
one that you can find as a champion. And if he's not there, you may have to convince him, right? Then
Yeah,
he
that's where
becomes,
the efforts start. But we have to
yeah.
map the stakeholders based on the, like, what scenarios we usually face in our cities.
So usually you face that local politicians are not so interested, right?
Yeah, for environmental measures. Yeah,
For
they are
environmental issues.
mostly in economic oriented.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Very nice. This is going very well. Is everybody active? I see at least 3 people active. Wonderful. You can also create new bubbles. There's a couple of empty bubbles. Now somebody has changed one into governments, but you mean government is very broad, right? There's a low interest and a little bit higher. Yeah. If you can say what you mean with governments, which governments? That's the local government, right? The panchayats. Those are the local level village governments. Or the urban local bodies, meaning, yeah, the municipalities or, yes, local governments. Okay. Right. So just for the sake of learning, if you go to the next slide, you can just go to the slide below, this one with the matrix. Just go and see in the next slide. Those are a couple of the variables that I was saying, like what does determine the influence? And you have to realize that this is relative influence, right? Relative influence, meaning one stakeholder versus the other. And of course, it's a bit of subjective, as we just discussed. The current situation may be observed by you as the politician has no interest. But, you know, first of all, that can change, but it is also who you ask. Sometimes if you fill out this matrix, it may look different than if one of your key partners actually completes the same matrix with the same stakeholders, because their perception of their interest and influence may be different. So, you know, these are a couple of the variables, the legal hierarchy, as you said, right? Who has the control over decision making? I'm not going through it, but you can just see what is there. What are the aspects that you have to keep in mind if you rank them? These are a couple of them. So what do you do if do you agree with me that it could be subjective?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So how could you make that, you know, and you know, be careful, because you could even create conflicts. Like if you put some stakeholders here at high influence or low influence, and they say, no, I disagree. How could you avoid that? Or how could you use this tool actually to create a common language and a common understanding again in the partnership?
We can create the language or the mode of instructions by a mode of transmission of like their authority, like based on their influence. Like all the highly influenced people can be used for a particular set of things, or should not be actively involved at all the places. Like the ones which are highly influential and highly interested needs to be taken like through all the steps in the decision making process, and those which lacks the interest also and lacks the influence also, they just needs to be informed. Like they needs to be informed because they are the important part also, but they should not shouldn't be given
Yeah.
like utmost importance, because they might create a hindrance to our project maybe.
Wonderful. Thank you for your contribution. And I will go into that a little further in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to show, for example, this factory owner here. This factory owner is of low influence, but this factory owner may be a politician as well. He may actually be elected in one of the political parties. And then suddenly this factory owner moves up, right? It may also change his position over time, but it may also be that somebody sees him as less influential and other persons see him as more, or other stakeholders see him as more influential. So you can have a discussion on this. Actually, what you can do is at least the subjectivity can be intersubjective if you do this exercise with a couple of your key and your core trusted partners. So at the beginning of your stakeholder, you don't have a large, trust base yet. So you have to be careful with whom you do this exercise. But you can at least try to get a bit of a diversity into the group. As we do it now on Google, you together agreed that this is the right way of doing it. We may need much more time than 5 minutes and 10 minutes to think of this. You need to go through them one by one, right? But what I mean to say is intersubjectivity means at least that you agree together that this is right now the ranking that we see with these stakeholders, and therefore you can decide your engagement strategy according to these 4 quadrants. I think that was what you just mentioned. Like if there's high influence and high interest, then you engage with them differently than if there's low interest and low influence, right? So I will go to that. I just have to see my, oh, I was not sharing my screen, I'm just saying. I showed the last slide before we go to the main session again. I don't know what this is. I have something pop up on my screen. Isha, do you know what this is? The breakout room in progress?
Yeah, can you still see? Hello, ma'am?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you still see that window?
Yeah. If I close it, I can close it, but I don't know what happens.
Close,
Okay, I closed it.
close it, not a problem.
Okay, right. So what we just discussed, let me just go through this before we go back to the plenary session. Once we have made those 4 boxes, the 4 quadrants on that matrix, you can actually decide how to engage with them. And rightfully, as you said, the highest influence and the highest interest will be your core partners, your key players. The ones that are low on both axes are least important. You may want to inform them about what you do, and you may want to monitor them. As I said, the factory owner could suddenly become an elected politician. And in that case, his influence increases. So you may then move him into one of the other boxes. The one here, meet their needs. This is a very interesting one. These are high influence on the left top corner. These are high influence stakeholders, but they currently don't have an interest. Now, if you raise the awareness and if you see what's in it for them, if you can meet their needs, suddenly they may become interested. Okay, so then they move from that left top box to the right, and then you can make them a core partner. If they suddenly have an interest and they have a high influence, they can be very, very helpful. So same with the ones on the right bottom. They are actually not very influential, but they have a high interest, and those could be the local villagers, or it could also be some local research or a person who has a lot of technical or historic knowledge. Of course, the capacity building on knowledge is not required, but maybe capacity building on engaging with the government or giving them a platform or a voice to be heard on your platform. Right? So if you do that, then you can bring the stakeholders that are currently in the right bottom box with high interest but low influence. You can actually give them a voice. You can actually make them more influential through your platform. Is that clear, or do you have any questions on this? No questions? Don't be shy. Okay, now we are there with the reporting. I think we will soon go back to the plenary. So I'd like to know who would like to report. Reporting will be very short, will be very brief, so don't worry too much. And these are the questions that will be asked. Himanshu?
I can do it. Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
I can do it.
great. You have 2 minutes to report on what happens. So just think of the process.
We get to present the slides, or we just have to.
Yeah, I can
explain it?
show. Yeah, I can show the slides. And the
Maybe
first one
we can
with
just
yeah,
show
I
them
will
like how to build it.
yeah,
Okay.
but 2 minutes, so it's very brief. You
Sure,
just
sure, okay.
start briefly instead of going in all the details. Then these other 3 questions are a reflection exercise, and that is a more personal one. This will be different for each individual. If I ask Himanshu or if I ask Samreen, these questions may be different for you, right? So we could actually now, Isha, how much time do we have still? Are we going back soon?
That depends when we cannot. You tell me.
Yeah. So I would invite you now to exchange between yourselves. And Isha, can you help me to go to the other breakout room and I speak with Misha and see if we can close it?
Yes, sure. I'll just add you to
You
that.
move me? Okay, so you guys, can you discuss amongst yourselves the answers to these 4 questions? And I'll just check the other breakout room and then we'll move in a couple of minutes to the plenary. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, Isha, you can help me to move to the other breakout room.
So anybody got any points to discuss about? Yes, Himanshu.
Do we have to discuss like?
I don't know. I don't think multi-stakeholder partnerships is as easy as creating a matrix in India. In India, if
No,
you
but
have
all the exercises that are being done, actually, when this is the virtual platform. That's how they are explaining just the process to us. But when we do
right,
it on field, like we
Mhm.
have around 100 200 participants, or maybe initially we have 25 to 30 participants, and everyone are using the chipboards and putting their feedbacks onto them. The issue starts, the like problem solving strategy starts with like which ones we have to form, like move into the capacity building platforms, which one we have to guide through, which one we have to associate with. So those from that point are strategies start, like with whom we should strategize what kind of activity.
Right.
So that is like one of the initial important step that all the firms are using for implementation of any project right now.
Right.
So it looks very easy,
Mhm.
but like in like real case scenario, it is very useful. Like like you, this is it's just an process to distinguish between all the stakeholders and then how to tackle the each one of them. So that's how it's.
Right. So how do you work with a stakeholder which neither has any influence nor has any interest in a particular project, but
Yeah.
would
So
but is still
though,
very important for the project, like holds a veto power in terms of monetary resource or anything? How do you deal
yeah,
with
yeah,
such
that's
people?
if it doesn't have any influence, like if it doesn't have an influence, yeah, if you are like you just said it influences through the veto power or something, so
Right.
you are giving him more power, right? More influence, it has more influence power thing. But there are certain groups who acts as a like a hindering process, like they
Right.
create hindrance in a project. So if we don't include them, that will be the worst case. So we have to identify those people and we just have to inform them at some point of time to satisfy their ego kind of thing, that we
Right.
have done this, we have proposing this, we will do this, we are just informing you, so that when the project is out they don't create a ruckus out of it and just create a major issue, like we no one asked us, no one told us, we were not included. So that's why they are used.
But don't you feel as we are empowering more people, as we're empowering, uh, giving them more options to deal with this ego problem, so-called, is going to increase and not decrease as stakeholder participation will increase?
Yeah, it might increase, but we have the most influence power, most influence people on our stake. We are working with them.
Hmm.
So our focus should be on the influential part and the interested people. So
Hmm.
they would be like the 75 to 80% people, right?
Hmm.
So we have to focus on that. Otherwise, no project would be executed in a country.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
It's very much like how EIA processes and even the climate talks are happening these days. They're trying to
Yeah,
divide people based on their interests and then trying to bring them to a common table.
yeah, this stakeholder mapping exercise is being used at every platform for all the projects. It's being actively used. There are various formats, like this one was the basic one, the most basic one, interest and influence key in the matrix. There is one circular mapping also, like the concentric circles mapping. So
Great.
there are like various types of mapping exercises only, which they like it also varies, like which exercise you have to follow based on the project actually. So
Right.
this one is the most basic to start with, and
Great.
this is something people don't teach us in our colleges.
Hmm.
This is something we get to learn when we are in the profession only.
Right.
So it's
Right.
better to like have this influence, have this experience basically to on beforehand.
Right. So, which organization are you representing?
I'm freelancer only right now.
Oh, great. Great. In the watch sector or any particular sector?
I work in biodiversity sector basically.
Great.
Samreen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
We have experts over here, Samreen. She is
Okay.
a
Oh
research
no,
scholar.
don't say that.
All
She is doing her PhD research in water governance, I guess. Right?
No, not governance. I'm working on resilience towards flooding, basically,
Yeah.
for the
right.
cities.
Great.
Big experienced people we have over here.
Okay, everyone, it's great to hear this wonderful conversation, but I will be closing the breakout room in a minute. So if you have anything, you can wind it up.
Tada, thank you.